Again, it's an enigmatic entry on the docket here, and I'm just going to read it out. Death Game Hotel playing with Swery and the development team in VR. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, I think
Swery?
so.
Okay.
That's his nickname.
That's you, right, John? That you put that on the list.
Yeah, because so this is from White Owls. The guy's this is the Deadly Premonition guy, if you remember. We've
Hmm.
tested that. And he has his own studio, and they put out a VR game last week, I guess it was. Yeah. And it was for the Quest 2 and 3. And I ended up having an absolute blast playing it. The developers actually were there, and I had an opportunity to like basically play. I just hopped in there, and they were all just hanging out in the lobby, and I was like, "Well, let's give this a shot." And it was a good chance to practice language skills as well. And we ended up playing for over an hour, I'd say. And basically, the game itself, the concept is so interesting. I felt I needed to talk about it just because it's essentially a series of it's table games, but very demented table games, if such a thing. Where basically like so everybody has these chalices full of blood in front of them, and in the
Oh
center of
boy.
the table there's more blood. And essentially you have these chips. They're almost like, or like these like stone tiles, and each tile has a different effect. And the idea is that each of these chalices can be, you can put X number of tiles in them, but you can't see how many can go in your opponent's goblets or whatever chalices. And if you're basically trying to get rid of all your tiles by dropping them in here. But every time you overflow a chalice, one of the candles in the middle goes out. And when they all go out, you're visited by essentially the Grim Reaper. And at that point, you have to bet one of your body parts. And if you lose one of those body parts, the way it interacts with the game is so interesting. So first of all, it's in VR, your mic is active. We're able to just converse and chat with everybody in the room, which is great. So like, let's say you bet your mouth, for instance, and you end up losing that round, and then the Grim Reaper comes and slices your mouth off, which by the way, they show in a very graphic way, like literally like a fire hose of blood squirting out from whatever limb you just lost. But I think in the mouth case though, you get like this like iron mask thing to cover your mouth. And when you do it, suddenly your voice becomes inaudible. Like to the other people playing the game, it just sounds like kind of thing, right?
It's funny.
So they actually try to simulate the effect that these things have. So if you lose your eyes, for instance, the whole game becomes kind of blurry and red and you can't really see. If you lose your hearing, you basically can't hear anybody. If you like lose your hands, you just end up with like bony nubs, and you try to push around the tiles with your bony nubs. And you can get like a robot arm as well to make up for that. So it's like, it's really crazy over the top stuff. But while you're playing, there's all kinds of weird items you can just like bring out onto the table, and you're just like messing with things. So like you can pull out a sword and then skewer the owl that's flying around, and then use that to like bash people's tiles over and just like cause absolute havoc. And just the absurdity of doing all this in VR was just it was a good time, I have to admit. So
It also sounds quite disturbing, if I may say so, John.
I mean, it's got kind of an anime aesthetic, right? So it's not
Okay.
too, but there is actually violence, and they do actually like let you choose. Like, do you want to see like this extreme gore? Like when you see literally shoots of blood like coming out of somebody's ears, you're just like, whoa. It's a thing, all right.
It
But
sounds like a sweary
I'd
joint.
expect no less. I'd
Yeah.
expect no less. And there's like a whole like lobby area where everybody kind of meets up. That's like the hotel lobby, and it just has like a neat vibe. And there's so much stuff that you can interact with. Like when we started, they handed me a beer and some pizza in the virtual game world. And, you know, I think it's just these types of things aren't that interesting just normally, but when you're in VR, it becomes so much more immersive, you know, because it's just like interacting with physical objects becomes fun. Like, oh, I can use this bottle cap to throw at something that causes a physics reaction. And it's like that kind of experimentation and messing around with stuff is just a good time.
Mm.
And yeah, so it's pretty neat. I have some footage here for Oliver as well. They actually streamed it on their YouTube channel, which I didn't realize at the time.
Oops.
So which is funny. So that's up there. You can see
So
me
you
bumbling around in there.
talking in Japanese?
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to practice that, and they were thankful that we did. So it was good fun.
Oh,
Everybody
great.
was super friendly and nice, and helped me sort of learn the ropes of it because the rules are initially slightly confusing.
Hmm.
I think there's poker in there as well if you just want something more traditional. But yeah, I mean, apparently this was born out of ideas during the lockdown era where they're like, what if you could just have a cool place to hang out and play games in VR, basically. And I think VR is extremely good for that.
Yeah.
And I guess the only thing I think it's published by Meta,
There is a
which
PC version, though, isn't there?
I don't think there is
Well, I'm
right
looking.
now.
There's
Is
a
there?
news story on Rock Paper Shotgun about it, which would suggest there's a PC version.
I hope so, but as far as I know, currently, I think it's only on Quest.
Okay.
But if possible, I think it would be neat to see this show up on other platforms as well, like PSVR 2 and PC, just to get more people in the multiplayer queue. There is a single player mode, by the way, with like a story and characters and such. And it's like, it kind of advances the story. Like you go back to the hotel lobby between matches or some of the random hallways throughout the hotel, and you're like conversing with the characters, and then you play them one-on-one. But I think multiplayer was a big focus for this. So yeah,
Mm.
Right.
cool little game. I will definitely be playing some more.